Rain lashed against the hospital window as I lay there, frail and fading, clutching the ultrasound picture of our unborn triplets. The beeping monitor beside me echoed like a countdown, not to birth, but to the slow erasure of everything I thought was real. Ethan stood by the door, his face a mask of guilt and cowardice. He couldn't even meet my eyes. "Lila," he muttered, voice trembling, "I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you die." I tried to speak, but my throat burned from the chemotherapy. All I could manage was a whisper. "You're not watching me die. Ethan, you're just leaving before I live again." He didn't respond. The next sound was the door clicking shut, softly, almost politely, as if he were excusing himself from a dinner table instead of abandoning his wife and unborn children. Days became months. The chemo drained my hair, my strength, my hope, but my babies, they fought. 3 tiny heartbeats kept me alive when medicine couldn't. Nurses called me the miracle mother. I called it vengeance against fate. When the doctor said I wouldn't make it past delivery, I smiled weakly and told them they didn't know how stubborn love could be. I delivered 3 perfect angels, Noah, Eli, and Arya, and though I was a shadow of who I'd been, I survived. Barely. I disappeared after that. New name, new city, new life. I sold handmade jewelry online while recovering, while raising 3 children who never knew the man who had once promised forever. I told them their father was gone, not dead, but gone in the only way that mattered. Years blurred into one another, until one cold autumn afternoon, fate decided I hadn't suffered enough. Or perhaps it wanted me to see what survival looked like on my terms. I was at a charity gala for cancer survivors, wearing a silver dress I'd sewn myself. The ballroom was glittering, full of elegant laughter and champagne flutes clinking under chandeliers. I didn't belong there, yet I was invited, a symbol of hope. And then, through the blur of perfume and polished shoes, I heard a voice I thought I'd buried. "Lila." My name dropped into the air like glass shattering. I turned, and there he was, Ethan. He looked older. The confident, charming man I'd once loved was gone, replaced by someone hollow-eyed, haunted. His tailored suit couldn't hide the weight of guilt that clung to him. His eyes widened as he realized I wasn't a ghost. "Why, you're alive," he stammered. I let the silence stretch, long enough for every second he abandoned us to echo back at him. "Alive," I said softly. "And so are your children." He froze. "Children?" Something in his expression, confusion, then dawning horror, told me he hadn't even known I'd made it to delivery. He thought we'd all died. Maybe that's what helped him sleep at night. "You left us," I said, each word slow and deliberate. "Me. For what, Ethan? Fear? Freedom?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. His jaw trembled. I was scared. "You were dying." I didn't know how to handle it. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I'd heard that excuse from 1,000 ghosts before. "You didn't handle it, Ethan. You ran. And now you're standing in front of the woman you buried in your mind." He reached out a hand, as if touch could rewrite the past. I stepped back. Then his gaze shifted behind me, to the entrance, where 3 children stood, clutching handmade cards. My triplets, 12 years old, bright-eyed, beautiful. They ran toward me. "Mom!" Arya shouted, waving her card, and I knelt to meet them, my silver dress pooling like liquid moonlight. Ethan stared as if the air had been stolen from his lungs. "Who are they?" he whispered, though he already knew. I met his gaze. "The life you walked away from." He looked like he wanted to fall to his knees, to beg, to explain. But before he could speak, a familiar voice echoed across the room. A deep, kind voice that steadied my heart. "Lila," said Dr. Adrian Cole, my oncologist, and the man who had held my hand through every nightmare Ethan had run from. "They're asking for you on stage. It's your turn to share your story." I smiled and took Adrian's arm, feeling Ethan's stare burn into my back like frost. The triplets followed me, their laughter soft but proud. I didn't look back as I stepped onto the stage, but I could feel Ethan's world collapsing in the silence behind me. The realization that I had not only survived, but thrived without him. Yet, deep down, a question clawed at my chest. Why was he here? He wasn't the type to attend charity galas. And as I looked out over the crowd, something shifted. The sponsors, the guests, the hushed conversation near the VIP table. Ethan was with them. He was their new business partner. Fate wasn't done with us yet. The spotlight softened as I stepped a microphone, the sound of applause swelling around me. My heart beat steady, not from nerves, but from something deeper, defiance. The same rhythm that had kept me alive through chemo, through childbirth, through nights when the pain was too much to bear. The triplets stood at the edge of the stage, their little faces glowing with pride, unaware that the man watching from the shadows had once abandoned all of us to die. Survival? I began, my voice calm, steady. It's not about winning against death. It's about refusing to surrender to despair. The words flowed like silk, rehearsed yet raw. When life strips you bare, when the people you love most walk away, you either break or you rebuild yourself into something stronger. I saw a movement at the edge of the ballroom. Ethan had taken a few steps closer. He was pale, almost ghostly, his eyes fixed on me like a man trying to reconcile two versions of the same soul, the woman he'd left and the one who now stood tall, radiant, untouchable. The applause at the end of my speech felt like thunder. Adrian gave me a soft nod as he helped me down the steps, his hand steady on my back. My children surrounded me instantly, their laughter like music, their love loud enough to drown the past. But then Ethan appeared, blocking our path. "Lila, please," he said, voice low, desperate. "Just give me a moment. I didn't know. I thought you were gone. I cut him off. You thought it would be easy that way." His shoulders sagged. "Yes," he whispered, and it was the worst mistake of my life. Noah stepped forward, frowning, his young eyes sharp. "Mom, who is he?" The question hung heavy. I could feel the audience's gaze turning toward us. The miracle mother, her children, and the man who suddenly looked like a ghost from her story. Ethan glanced between them and me, panic flickering his eyes. "Please don't tell them like this," he murmured. "Tell them what?" I asked, my voice cold. "That you were the man who promised to love us forever, then ran the moment life got hard." Adrian stepped closer, protective. "Lila, you don't owe him anything." But I wasn't doing this for Ethan. I was doing it for the three faces looking up at me, confusion mixing with curiosity. "Kids," I said softly, "this man is your father." The silence cracked open like thunder. Aria's eyes widened first, then Eli's mouth fell open and Noah's jaw tightened. Ethan took a trembling step forward. "I didn't know you survived," he said quickly, the words spilling out like a flood. "Your doctor told me. You were gone. All of you. I left the country to forget." I snapped. "To build your empire without the burden of a dying wife and 3 children you never met." His voice broke. "No, I left because I couldn't live with it. I blame myself every day." "Good," I said simply, "because you should." The triplets looked between us, uncertain. Aria, ever the gentle one, reached for my hand. "Mom, did he really leave you?" I nodded slowly. "He did. But we're here now because we didn't need him." Ethan's eyes glistened. "Please, Lila, let me make it right. I can't change the past, but I want to be there now. For them. For you." I studied him, searching for truth in the lines that time had carved into his face. His once perfect confidence was gone, replaced by something raw, regret, maybe even love. But love, I knew, wasn't enough. It had to be earned. Before I could respond, Adrian stepped in. "Mr. Whitmore," he said, his tone clipped and professional. "This isn't the time or the place. Lila's children deserve peace, not scenes." Ethan turned to him sharply. "And who are you to decide what she deserves?" Adrian's gaze was steady. The man who stayed when you didn't. The tension between them was electric. The guests were pretending not to stare, but the whispers had already begun. Cameras from the event were pointed subtly in our direction. I could feel the weight of 1,000 curious eyes pressing down on my chest. "Enough," I said finally, my voice low but firm. "Ethan, meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m. at the old Garden Cafe on 5th. If you really want to talk, show up. But tonight, I'm leaving with my children." He nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. "I'll be there." We left the ballroom, my heels clicking against the marble floor, the triplets close at my side, Adrian just behind us. The cold air outside hit my face like freedom. I took a deep breath, one that tasted of rain and courage. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, I sat by the window of our small apartment. The city lights glowed beneath me, each one a reminder that life moves on, even when hearts don't. My fingers traced the edge of an old photo on my desk. Me and Ethan, before cancer, before betrayal, before everything burned down. I didn't cry. I hadn't in years. But something about seeing him again had stirred the ashes of emotions I'd thought long dead. The next morning, the cafe was quiet, sunlight pouring through lace curtains. I ordered tea. My hands calm though my heart wasn't. When Ethan walked in, wearing the same suit from last night, I saw the faint tremor in his hand. He looked smaller now, stripped of power. "Lila," he said, taking the seat across from me. I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about them. About you. I stir my tea slowly. "Words are easy, Ethan. What do you really want?" He exhaled, leaning forward. A chance to be part of their lives. To make up for what I did. "And what about me?" I asked quietly. "Do you want to make it up to me, too? Or is this just guilt dressed as redemption?" He winced. "Both," he admitted. "I loved you, Lila. I never stopped. But when the diagnosis came, I panicked. I was weak. I've spent every day since hating myself for it." His honesty caught me off guard. For a fleeting moment, I saw the man I'd once loved, flawed but human. "You built a new life," he said softly. "But I can see it in your eyes. You still carry it. The pain, the betrayal. I do too." I looked away, out the window where the world seemed simpler. "You can't just walk back into our lives like nothing happened." "I know," he said, "but maybe I can start by helping. With the kids, with their education, whatever you need." I hesitated. I didn't want his money. But maybe my children deserved to know where they came from, even if it wasn't pretty. "Fine," I said finally. "You can meet them again. Slowly. On my terms. And you tell them the truth. No lies, no excuses." He nodded, relief softening his face. "Anything you want." But as he spoke, I caught a glimpse of something. A flash of a newspaper on the table beside him. The headline read, "Whitmore Industries under investigation for fraud." My stomach dropped. I looked at him sharply. "You're being investigated?" He froze, eyes darting to the paper. "It's complicated. A misunderstanding." "No," I said, my voice cold again. "You're lying. You didn't come back for redemption. You came back because you're drowning." His lips parted, but no words came out. The silence between us thickened like smoke. Outside, the wind shifted. I could feel the old ache in my bones, the one that always came before the storm. Ethan wasn't the only ghost returned to my life. He was bringing new shadows with him. And for the first time in years, I wondered if surviving him once had only been beginning. The silence between us stretched like a wound refusing to close. I could hear the ticking of the cafe clock, slow and deliberate, as though marking the seconds before everything shattered again. Ethan sat across from me, the same man who once swore to love me until death, now trembling like a child who finally realized death had never come for me. It had come for him, piece by piece, year after year. I leaned back, crossing my arms. "You didn't come for forgiveness," I said quietly. "You came because your empire is falling apart. You're not looking for your children. You're looking for a shield." His jaw tightened. "That's not true." "Then tell me," I said, my voice steady but sharp, "why a man under federal investigation shows up at a cancer charity pretending to be moved by compassion." He exhaled, the sound more like a confession than a breath. "Because when I saw your name on that guest list, I had to know if it was really you. I told myself it was closure. But seeing you," his voice cracked, "it was like seeing the part of me that could have been saved." I studied him, the man who had once been everything to me. His cufflinks glinted, his suit immaculate. But beneath it all, he looked hollow. The powerful billionaire everyone envied was nothing but a broken man chasing ghosts. "Ethan," I said softly, "You buried me once. Don't dig me up just to kill me again." He looked up, eyes glistening. "I'm not here to hurt you. I want to make things right." "There is no making right," I replied. "There's only living with what you've done." He swallowed hard, his voice trembling. "Then let me live with it. Let me help. I've lost everything else. Lila, don't let me lose him too." His plea hung in the air like the scent of rain before a storm. I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to walk away and never look back. But then I saw something in his eyes. Not the arrogance of the man who left me, but the emptiness of someone finally seeing the wreckage he'd caused. "Fine," I said at last. "You can see them. Once a week. In my presence. No promises, no forgiveness. Just truth." He nodded, his relief almost painful to watch. That evening when I returned home, the triplets were waiting on the couch, eyes full of questions. I told them everything. The illness, the abandonment, the survival. I didn't spare the pain, but I didn't feed their hate either. Arya cried softly, her small hand clutching mine. Noah stared at the floor, fists clenched, silent fury burning in his chest. Eli, always a quiet one, whispered, "So he's coming back." I nodded. "To see you. To try." Noah stood abruptly. "I don't need him. We don't need him, Mom." I reached for him, but he stepped back. "He left you when you were dying. He doesn't deserve us." His words struck deep, because I'd once said the same about my own father. But time had a cruel way of forcing us to face what we thought we'd escaped. Over the next few weeks, Ethan began visiting. He brought small gifts, books, puzzles, art kits. He didn't push. He listened. The triplets were wary, but curious. I watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, heart torn between suspicion and the faintest glimmer of something like forgiveness. Then one afternoon, Ethan showed up late. His face was pale, his hands shaking. I noticed the bruises beneath his collar. "What happened?" I asked sharply. "Nothing," he said too quickly. "Just business pressure. It's worse than I thought. They're coming after everything." "Who?" "The board. The investors. They think I falsified accounts." He laughed bitterly. "They're not wrong. I signed things I shouldn't have. After you were gone, I didn't care what happened to me." I stared at him. The mighty Ethan Whitmore, unraveling in front of me. "You're going to lose everything," I said. He looked up. Maybe I deserved to. Before I could respond, Arya ran into the room, holding a crayon drawing. "Dad, look," she chirped without hesitation. I drew our family. The word Dad hit him like lightning. His eyes glistened. He took the paper with trembling hands, staring at the four stick figures smiling under a sun. For a moment he looked at peace. Then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and froze. "I have to take this," he whispered, stepping outside. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. When I followed him out, he was gone. The next morning, the news broke. Ethan Whitmore arrested in corporate fraud scandal. His photo was everywhere, disheveled, handcuffed, defeated. My heart sank, not because I pitied him, but because despite everything, a part of me had hoped he'd change. Weeks went by. Letters came from prison, pages of apologies, memories, regrets. I didn't reply, but I read every word. Each one felt like a stitch closing an old wound. Then one rainy afternoon, a lawyer showed up at my door. "Mrs. Hale," he said, using my new name, "Mr. Whitmore asked me to deliver this to you." He handed me a thick envelope. Inside was a deed to a trust for the triplets. Every penny left from his fortune transferred in their name. And a letter. "Lila, asterisk, I don't expect forgiveness. But I wanted to leave something good behind. You taught me what survival really means. Not power, not money, love. If there's anything left of me that's worth remembering, let it be this, asterisk. Tell the children I finally did one thing right. Ethan," I pressed the paper to my chest, not because I loved him still, but because I understood him now. Regret is its own kind of death. Months later, the triplets stood with me by the coast, scattering wildflowers into the wind. Ethan had passed away in custody. Heart failure, they said. He was 45, still young, still broken. Noah said nothing, just stared at the horizon. Eli held Aria's hand as she whispered, "Goodbye, Dad," as the petals drifted over the water. I felt the strange calm of something ending and something beginning. Life had given me pain, loss, betrayal, but it had also given me rebirth, strength, and three souls who reminded me that love doesn't need perfection. It needs endurance. Years passed. The triplets grew into remarkable young adults. Noah studied medicine. Eli pursued art. And Aria, she became a lawyer, fierce and kind, defending families torn apart like ours once was. And me. I continued my work, speaking at hospitals, mentoring women who'd been left behind, teaching them that survival wasn't just about breathing. It was about becoming. One day after a conference, a young woman approached me, tears in her eyes. "Your story saved my life," she said. "When my husband left after my diagnosis, I wanted to give up. Then I saw your speech." I smiled gently. "Don't thank me," I said. "Thank the pain. It's what shapes us into something unbreakable." That night, as I stood on my balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly, I felt something I hadn't in years, peace. I whispered into wind, "You see, Ethan, I lived. I really lived." The wind carried my words into night, soft and sure, and for a moment I swore I could feel him there, free at last, forgiven by the silence. Below, the triplets' laughter drifted from the living room. It was the sound of life continuing, of hope reborn, of a story that began in death but ended in resurrection. I turned back to them, smiling through tears, my heart steady and strong. Because survival wasn't the ending of my story. It was only ever the beginning of everything I was meant to become.